Have you ever wondered, why me? Why did the gospel reach me when it did? Since Jesus walked the earth, the gospel message has been shared literally millions of times. I was reading a book recently by Todd Aaron, and he shared something that really resonated with me. He said, salvation has come to us as it's on its way to someone else. You and I both know Jesus because someone who knew him was brave enough to tell us. The question for Crew's ministry is, are we making it available to every student, no matter where they're from, their culture or what their interests are, everywhere?
I just remember being like, oh man, like there doesn't need to be a God, it's all explained.
We never really talked about spirituality growing up, so I guess I considered myself to be like an atheist.
It's heartbreaking to see the way that people view God. And the truth is that a lot of my friends who don't know Jesus, I believe that they're hurting.
It's not enough for us to just feel, or even for us to just pray. Jesus didn't sit in heaven and felt sad that we were separated from him. And he didn't sit in heaven and just pray for us, but he came and did something.
God is moving in these different pockets of culture on high school campuses and universities. For 65 years, Crew has been helping students and faculty connect with God and live a life on mission.
You matter. You are part of the church of Jesus Christ. And Jesus has called us to live out our discipleship and to disciple others in the context of a worldwide movement.
I saw people who loved God but did not feel that they needed to erase their culture and found God in their culture.
And I think that's what's so great about the gospel, right? Because the gospel's for all of us. And no matter what our story is, where we come from, it relates to us. And all of our stories fit into it.
God is not just where I think he is, God is not just where I can see him in my life. God is existing and working and doing beautiful things across the globe.
My name is Johnny, and I gave my life to Christ 3 years ago.
My name is Emily, and I accepted Christ a year and a half ago.
I came to Christ 7 months ago.
I followed Jesus Christ 5.5 weeks ago.
Good evening. My name is Nick Stapleton, and I serve as one of the team leaders for Crew in Southern Colorado, and I am so glad that you've decided to join us tonight. Statistically, college students are the least religious group in America. Only 20% of college students attend a religious gathering on a weekly basis, and 70% of high school students in the church walk away from the church during college. There is a tremendous amount of confusion and disillusionment about the person of Jesus Christ on college campuses. More than this, there's an intensifying hostility towards the gospel message, not only outside of the classroom, but inside as well. And yet, in the face of these realities, the Lord is reaching and awakening faith in an increasing number of students, bringing them into a relationship with himself. Crew was founded in 1951 by Bill and Vonette Bright with the belief that college students are critical to reaching the world for Christ. And today, Crew has a ministry presence in 191 countries around the world, and our conviction remains the same. Reaching the college campus reaches the world. And here in Southern Colorado, there are roughly 60,000 college students. And our ministry is currently active on 3 campuses: UCCS, Colorado State University Pueblo, and Otero Junior College. And this year we also began to see students from Pikes Peak Community College begin to come to our ministry events as well. Students on these campuses account for approximately 1/3 of that 60,000. And we are trusting the Lord to reach every student on every campus with the message of Christ. Crew's mission is to see lost students turn into Christ-centered laborers, and we seek to fulfill this mission by doing 3 things: winning students to Christ, building them in their faith, and sending them out as lifelong laborers for Jesus. And tonight, we want to share with you the many ways God is on the move, transforming the lives of students on our campuses here in the Springs and throughout Southern Colorado. We seek to win students to Christ through one-on-one conversations and outreaches. During the first week of the fall, we had nearly 2,000 students complete our spiritual interest questionnaire, where they had the opportunity to indicate their interest in starting a relationship with the Lord or getting connected with a Cru Bible study. Over 1,300 students responded positively, giving us their contact information and requesting more information from us. And our staff and student leaders spent weeks calling and meeting with these students face to face to hear their stories and share the gospel with them in their first point of contact. And through this outreach and others, we saw 21 students place faith in Jesus for the first time. And many Christian students get connected with our community and local churches. In addition to seeing students won to Christ, we want to help establish and build them in their faith through on-campus Bible studies, retreats, and conferences. And in February of this year, 70 students attended our annual winter retreat in Black Forest, where they learned about God's call on their lives to help fulfill the Great Commission and living their entire lives on mission by making disciples. Following this retreat, we invited our students to take a step of faith and video record their story of how Jesus has transformed their lives, what we call their 180 story. And collectively, they posted their videos on our YouTube channel and shared them directly with their classmates, professors, roommates, and family. All week, our students wore bright, obnoxiously blue shirts on campus that read, "Ask me about my 180 story." And my phone was buzzing throughout the week with stories of how God was working. One of our UCCS students texted me and he shared how he was incredibly nervous to share his story publicly because part of his history involved viewing pornography. But he wrote, "This really forced me to shape how I think about my story and how God can use it. I've been so encouraged by the texts I've been receiving from people who were impacted, including some of my coworkers who are atheists." Collectively, our students' video testimonies had well over 5,200 views. And as a result, we saw several new students come to our gatherings where they began to explore the Bible and learn more about Jesus. And because of our outreaches and student steps of faith, our movement has grown tremendously this year. So some of our gatherings drew so many students that we ran out of chairs. We had to create a nosebleed section for students. And really, what's more special than just running out of room is the fact that our gatherings have been filled with students who do not identify as Christians. We've been able to create spaces on the college campus where Christians and those exploring the Christian faith want to gather to hear the gospel and learn about Jesus. Finally, we are sending students from the campus to the world. Back in the fall, Cru's Western European leadership asked if our Southern Colorado ministry would own carrying the gospel to the least religious country in the entire world, Estonia. And our students rallied to the call. Over 30 students and Cru staff were prepared to board a plane 3 weeks from now to invest their summer carrying the gospel to Estonian college students. But due to COVID-19, we had to cancel our trip. But you better believe our students have every intention of being on a plane to Estonia a year from now, where they will carry the good news of Jesus to students who have never before heard the gospel. Ultimately, our vision is to see students graduate with more than a college degree. We want them to be sent from the campus with the passion and the ability to make disciples and to carry the gospel to the ends of the earth. Well, by this point, I think you've heard enough from me. I want to introduce you to one of our students, Sara Tamashek, a UCCS freshman majoring in video production, where she'll share with us how the Lord has transformed her life.
When my family moved from Indiana to Colorado, I had to leave my community behind and start all over. I felt alone, like nobody wanted to get to know me. In high school, my mental health got really bad. I had friends, but none that loved or cared for me. I was constantly feeling left out and overlooked. I was searching for validity from other people. I wanted so badly to be accepted and involved by others, which ultimately only made me insecure. Breakdowns and panic attacks started becoming a constant thing for me, and anxiety consumed my life. I felt sad all the time, often not knowing why. I just felt emotionally numb, and I didn't want to leave my bed or my room unless I had to. It got to the point where I heavily considered suicide and self-harm. I felt like I couldn't talk to my family about it because they didn't understand what I was going through. I also didn't tell my friends because I didn't want their sympathy or to burden them. I distanced myself drastically from God during this time. I was blaming Him for what I was going through. I didn't feel God in my life, and I didn't think He could help me at all. I just felt trapped and hopeless. When I started college, my mom kept telling me to check out Crew, but I didn't decide to go until I met someone from Crew and she invited me. I went to Crew's weekly gathering and I never felt more welcome in my life. I wanted to go back immediately. Strangely, the week after I went to Crew, there was a Christian song that I could not get out of my head. The lyrics, "When I called, you answered, and you came to my rescue," kept running through my mind. I really felt like God was speaking to me, saying that even when I'm in my darkest thoughts, He is with me through it all and wants to help me out of it. I was feeling alone and lost and didn't think God could help me, but these lyrics told me that if I seek out God and reach out to Him, He'll comfort me. Through Crew, I learned more about Jesus' character. He built relationships with sinners and chose to love everyone. I realized this is what I've been wanting all along. I decided to let Jesus take full control of my life, which is the best decision I've ever made. I can now know that His plan is what's best for me and that my worth can be found in Him. I know that sometimes, even though I feel anxious or sad, God is still with me and cares about how I'm feeling. He rescued me out of my misery, and now I'm constantly reminded of His steadfast love for me. With Christ, I don't need to feel helpless anymore because He loves me and died on the cross to save me. I can now have a personal relationship with God because of Jesus, which still blows my mind every day. And even though I don't always feel it or see it, I know God's working in my life and wants to have a relationship with me. God provided me with an amazing community of people who appreciate and love me, which is something that I've never experienced before, and I cannot stop thanking Him enough for it. I finally feel wanted, and I found purpose in my life again through Him. Now, I want to dedicate my whole life towards serving God and sharing His love. My name is Sara Tamashek, and this is my 180 story.
As we look towards next year, there are 3 strategic areas that we believe are critical to move us forward in our mission. First, we want to increase our evangelistic efforts on our campuses. Second, we want to scholarship students to our retreats and conferences. And lastly, we want to train and develop our student leaders. Moving the needle in these 3 areas will help us further the mission of seeing lost students turned into Christ-centered laborers. We have the staff in place, we have the student leaders in place, we have everything we need, but the financial resources to do what Jesus has called us to do. So tonight, I want to ask you to put those resources into our hands. We believe in a God who is not short on resources and is able to provide through each of you. Some of you watching may have the means to give a gift of $1,000, $5,000, or even $10,000 or more. And in order to reach our goal tonight, we will need these kinds of gifts. Many of you already give to support Crew through our staff. Thank you. Any faith investment you make this evening would be over and above what you are already giving to those staff members. And what you give tonight will not go to any staff member, myself included. So please do not redirect any of your giving away from a staff member or a project that you already support. In fact, I'd encourage you to consider increasing your giving to our staff, as they are our greatest resource. During the rest of our time together, I'd like each of you to pray and ask the Lord what He would have you give towards the needs that we're sharing with you this evening. But in the meantime, I hope you'll enjoy listening to a few more of our students share how the Lord has transformed their lives, as well as hear a brief word from the lead pastor of Woodman Valley Chapel, Josh Lindstrom.
Hi, my name is Vanessa Maratsky, and this is my 180 story, which is a personal story about how my life was heading in one direction, and Jesus changed the direction of my life 180 degrees. So my life can be pretty easily defined as a consistent, never-ending search for happiness and fulfillment.
I put all of my identity in my relationships and in my accomplishments too.
I drank on weekends to forget how miserable I was because I was lonely.
I took on so many titles and expectations that others gave me because I wanted to fit in wherever I was.
I felt like I was drifting from person to person, just trying to find stable ground.
Take me out of the spotlight of other people, and in secret I was battling an addiction to pornography.
I was actually agnostic, which basically means I believe that there's no evidence on whether or not God is real.
I thought Christians were super weird and just simply boring and really arrogant to claim that they had the only right way to God.
I found myself looking to the world rather than my God for a quick fix of happiness.
My life was filled with peer pressure, bad relationships, and unhealthy friendships.
This turned into depression, and I was consumed by it night after night.
And it's not hard to lose your faith when something terrible happens.
Someone that was part of my life unfortunately passed away.
When I was 12, I was diagnosed with chronic severe migraines, which I still deal with today.
I had 2 car accidents. The first one, I almost lost my own life, and in the second, I watched someone else suffer severely.
When a close friend of mine committed suicide, I was so confused and hurt, and I blamed God.
I felt confused, I felt guilty and incomplete.
And I turned my face away thinking, I don't need help from a God that would let this happen.
How could a good God allow pain and suffering in the world? And I would ask, if you were real, why don't you heal me right now?
Over time, though, my denial of God ate away at me, and I was failing at doing everything on my own.
I spent years battling this addiction with all of my own willpower and strength, only to fail each time.
I started to resonate with John 14:6 that says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life.
By clinging to all the anger and the bitterness that I felt, I was pushing away the love and the peace that I needed.
I began to understand His love and need to die on the cross.
The fact that Jesus did the ultimate sacrifice by giving up His life on the cross so that I could have mine has really blown my mind.
I was just like, God, I'm not doing super well on my own. I know you're real, and I believe Jesus died to save me from myself. I want you in my life. I don't know what's going to happen.
God began to open my eyes to the unhealthy ways that I was living and showed me that they wouldn't sustain me.
I got in touch with an on-campus ministry called Crew, and they had an event called RMGA, and it was there that I saw a whole different side of the love God has for me.
I learned the importance of being vulnerable about my problems with other people and the need of having a community.
So when I finally did turn back around, He was right there waiting, not with anger or disappointment, but with open arms.
Addiction is broken when God is given full control of your heart and is able to step in and redeem you from your brokenness.
God is the one who I needed to place my faith in, not in myself.
With a relationship with God, it doesn't matter what my body looks like, the mistakes I've made.
It doesn't matter what the world thinks of me, or what others will label me as, because I am who He says I am.
I didn't have to live in my shame and my insecurity.
I have hope, I have security, and I have a future with my Heavenly Father.
I no longer have to live in hiding.
I'm just happy to know that I have a Father in heaven that loves me.
It gives me immense joy and purpose knowing that God will always have my back and that He loves me deeper than I will ever know.
I am loved. I am wanted. God gives me my identity.
Before Christ, I was drifting. Now I am stable.
Before, I was apathetic. Now I'm vulnerable.
I was fighting, but after Christ, I'm redeemed.
I was unfulfilled, but now I am satisfied.
I was weak, and now I am strong.
I was unsteady. Now I am thriving.
I was guarded. Now I'm surrendered.
I was trapped, and now I am thriving.
I was searching, and now I am satisfied.
Before Christ, I was conforming. Now I'm rooted. My name is Henry, and this is my 180 story.
Well, hello. My name is Josh, and I am one of the pastors at Woodman Valley Chapel here in Colorado Springs. And I just want to thank you in advance for letting me have this moment to, as a preacher, I hope what I'm doing here is just preaching to the choir. The work of Cru in our church is so important and vital to what we're trying to accomplish in the lives of college students in our city. I don't know about you, but when I went to college years ago, this is going back a little bit, but I mean, I started off with probably 35 friends, all from various different churches growing up, people that I knew. And at the end of college, very few of us were still connected. It's one of those weird times in life, isn't it? We fill our brains with so much knowledge, we learn so much. And yet I really don't know of any 4-year window in life where we can lose so much too. And that's where Cru comes in and does something remarkable to win college students for Jesus. Students who would never step onto one of our church campuses, but in loving relationships can hear the truth and be directed to the God who loves them. Despite what they may hear in the media, despite what their heart might tell them about the state of this world, to know that Jesus Christ died for them. And you know this, but Cru is seeing college young men, young women come to faith, to build them up, to disciple them, to train them in the Lord, to set them on a new path. This is the way, walk in it. And those students are growing. And to send them out, to not just become a little, frozen, chosen huddle that they all stick together, but to become those heralds of righteousness, to go out onto their campuses, and indeed to go around the world and to bring that hope. Thing for us, which is particularly touching, is to see the way Cru tries to get those students connected to church. And I don't care whether it's our church or another church, but to see college students engage in the local community of believers to make that transition from student, regular parishioner. So good. It was actually just a few weeks ago, and I was sitting down with a guy that I'd met at Cru a while ago on campus. And then I started talking about church. And he said, well, I graduated a while ago. And for me, that was maybe one of the greatest endorsements for the work of Cru that I know. He had long since graduated, but now was just a committed follower of Jesus, looking to be faithful to what God wanted from him. So again, I'm preaching to the choir, I trust. But I encourage you, as I encourage myself, let's continue to be behind them. Let's pray for them. Let's support them. And let's trust that God will use them in remarkable ways for such a time as this. Thank you.
During this live stream, you should have received an email from us detailing the 3 ways you can give. Our most preferred way is electronically by credit card or bank transfer through our secure online website. You can also give by check. And lastly is through what we call a faith promise. A faith promise means asking God how much he would have you give, and then after he puts an amount on your mind or heart, trusting him for it. And then as God provides, you channel those resources to Cru. All 3 of these ways are covered in more detail in the email you received. And if you didn't receive that email, simply visit sococrew.com/give and you'll find the information you need there. Thank you again for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you and sharing a meal with you in person at next year's fellowship dinner on April 10th, 2021. But between now and then, we look forward to seeing the Lord continue to build his kingdom in Southern Colorado and around the world. Thank you for partnering with us in the mission, and may God bless you and his grace be with you.